What is good? We're back, and we've got the combine winners and losers, risers and fallers, however you want to spin it. Basically, we've gotten one more piece of the puzzle behind us, and now it's time to kind of sort through this information and see what it means. To me, at the end of the day, all you're really trying to do is just not have a terrible combine that puts you in a terrible situation with a really bad athletic kind of profile perspective. Other than that, if you can clear that for the most part, I think it's okay. But, you know, on the other side, you definitely want a little confirmation bias. You want your guys to do well. But on the other side of it, you should use it as sort of a map to check out prospects that you haven't looked at yet to say, oh, let me go check that out, or re-examine a prospect. And now you might look at them slightly different, but you have to be very careful not to put on those bar goggles where it's like, oh, she was a 10 and you woke up and it's a gargoyle, right? That's what you need to be careful of when you start mixing back. Hey, let me go re-examine this guy. Now you're giving him too much credit because you kind of know, you know, or maybe a better example was like, she didn't look great. She took her clothes off and it was kind of hot. But, you know, so anyway.
Yeah, neck down, baby, neck down. Okay.
We'll stop with the analogies now here. But I think the biggest winners from this in general, just an overall view, was your draft picks from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? I think that period, that gained value through this process as far as I'm concerned, right? And I think we kind of have alluded to that a little bit. And as time gets closer to the draft, the actual NFL draft, in general, these picks kind of raise in value. I think the combine just did us a solid as far as that goes, and we'll touch on why down the line here. So boys, Jeremiah, Chev, how we doing today?
Hey man, happy. It's just we got new imprinted information.
All right. We're on this side of the dirt. We got combine stuff. We got confirmation bias. We got ample time to tell you why Zachariah Branch isn't good, and I'm here for it.
All right, so we got winners first. We're going to do losers second, and we'll break it down by position. So, running back winners from the combine. You know, I think the biggest winners from this year kind of are a bit more from the athletic score POV, right? Which it doesn't mean those guys ran the fastest or performed at the top of every test, but when you factor in kind of height, weight stuff, they were at the top, right? So basically, if you're 6'1", 223, your measuring stick of athleticism should be a little different than somebody's at 5'8" and 190, right? So that's what this kind of does. It balances it out, sort of evens the playing field. And to that, we speak to Mike Washington, Seth McGawan, and Adam Randall. I think were the biggest kind of, if you put all that together, speed, score, athleticism, those guys came out as the big winner. Obviously, Mike Washington at the top. So we already kind of knew Mike Washington was floating up, you know, gaining some traction. People liked him. And now, bang, we have just a banner day for him. So let's start there, Jeremiah.
Hey, you get the very emotional Mike Washington after he runs his 40. He was not expecting his time. He was even surprised. So that was a huge day for him. And it's a huge day for making money. And it's very pivotal. So Mike Washington, you got to think about coming from a football desert, high school wise, in central New York, and matriculating up all the way up the ladder, having his best production at Arkansas, an SEC school. As it rises the stage, Mike Washington continues to get better. So we were seeing Omarion Hampton comps floating on NFL Network there as the combine was rolling. The 4.33 40, a top 10 yard split of 1.51. First in RB athleticism by Next Gen Stats was Mike Washington. So we're really getting number 2 invert to Seth McGawan. Everything that you wanted, more confirmation of the drumbeat that is Mike Washington. And then we're excited about, what about the Texans? What about the Chicago Bears? And then all of a sudden, I think there is some credence to conversation to making Mike Washington the RB2 overall in this class. I don't think it's hyperbole at this point.
Chev, what was your takeaway from Mike Washington and then, you know, those other two guys who had, you know, I don't think they've jumped as high as Mike Washington have, but I think back end wise, they've become more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in love with Mike Washington as I live 20 minutes away from where he played his college football at. So being familiar with him and just kind of seeing what a dumpster fire that he was involved in at Arkansas and still managed to produce, like there's there's a play on film where it looks like his offensive linemen are cosplaying WWE and like getting in position to pile drive one another. It's weird. So like he had a 92-yard touchdown at Buffalo. He had 625 yards, 7 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. I think the narrative surrounding him are trying to convince people trying to convince themselves why he can't be good. Like these are all getting put to rest one data point at a time. Senior Bowl, birthday gate, now the combine. So like,
by the way, he's 22. He'll be 23 around draft time.
Yeah. Shout out to Patricia Washington 6175 for that piece of info. But yeah,
to speak to that, like, what do you guys, and how do you view like when somebody's saying, well, why couldn't he beat out this guy? Or why wasn't he the best? Why wasn't he doing the number one stuff at this stop or that stop? And now he's a little older. So what do we say to that?
Let me take this one.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, that's not how real fucking football works. Like they're not just going to hand the ball to someone 350 times at the collegiate level. Like you can have a season where Seth McGawan and Mike Washington are playing together and they split the carries evenly, and it just goes slightly in Seth McGowan's favor. He still led in rushing touchdowns there. But besides the point, that's just not how real football works. If you have a good running back and you have another good running back, they're going to split carries. It doesn't matter in terms of like, hey, the team's not going to be like, well, we got to shelf this one guy and just give Mike Washington all the carries. Or we got to shelf this one guy and just give Jeremiah Love every single carry known to mankind. Like there's plenty of examples of two people being good in the backfield. Nobody said that stupid shit about Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson last year.
Maybe. I'm sure somebody, depending on which side of the fence you were on, they make the argument. But what I would say to that point then even is like, you can talk about the talent, but then you also like to pretend that some of these coaches don't have egos of like, well, no, this was the guy that I picked. So I'm just going to continue. Like I've got some eyeball evidence that says this guy's better, but I'm still feeding this guy because I put it on the line that, hey, this was the guy we needed and wanted, and he's our guy. And then it takes even more for the guy behind them to overcome. So just to say that coaches don't make bad decisions and egos don't get in the way is also crazy. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Hey, Joe Burrow ended up okay, right? We don't look at where he started. We look at where a player ends. So this is splintering in organizations. This is just a life principle as well. People move and are malleable to new situations and runouts, new jobs, new roles and opportunities. And guess what? They rise to the level of their ability. And there's a Peter principle where people flatten out, but then you have somebody like a Mike Washington who matriculates all the way up. We can't discredit what he's doing now. And there's just a constant drumbeat. What have you done for me lately? If we're all in real time and we want to be malleable to information, and that's the problem. You're getting people who are stuck to their priors, what they had prior to this. If this were 2 years ago, maybe it's different for Mike Washington, but every bowling pin that's in front of Mike Washington, he's knocking down. So you can get stuck in yesterday's analysis. Why not just join all the scouts and NFL teams who are going to be hyping and being thirsty for somebody like a Mike Washington in their backfield? He goes to the aforementioned teams, the Bears and the Texans. Are we not hyped up about Mike Washington? Are you just going to say, oh, well, no, it didn't happen his freshman year of college, so we're really out on that because of the so-called competition wherever he was along the way? You know, everybody's not a finished product, and you need to have that consideration for somebody like Mike Washington.
Right. And we've got a mock to follow this one, so make sure you're subscribed and liked to the channel. And if you haven't checked out the ffdynasty.com, you can go over there. You can check out crowdsource rookie rankings. You can also go ahead and swipe on rookies. So that brings it up. You can swipe on, you got Desmond Reader, Malik Benson, boys. Who we like?
Oh, Malik Benson.
All right. So it's as simple as that. And Ty Simpson or Jeff Caldwell. So Caldwell will be a name that we just talked about.
That's tempting, man. That's tempting.
So over at the ffdynasty.com, you can go check that out. Contribute to the crowdsource rankings. Help us change those rookie rankings after the combine here. But anyway, let's get back to Seth McGawan and Adam Randall. What does their testing kind of do for you guys? Is it, hey, I got to go back and test it? Now, Randall, to be noted, was a wide receiver at Clemson. And the reason I think that both of these guys' speed scores are, it's not like they lit it up necessarily as far as, oh my God, they ran. It's not like Mike Washington necessarily, but like Randall's 6'3", 232, right? And is a converted wide receiver. So this is his first time playing running back. So I'll let you guys take those two kind of wherever you want, and what's to be expected and how much movement maybe those guys just got.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Hey.
I mean, you've done Seth McGawan. I've done Adam Randall. So we can do it that way.
We can roll like that. Yep. Seth McGawan, 6 feet, 223 pounds. You love that size for weight. And top vert, 42.5 inches. Broad jump, 10.11. What's not to love about McGowan's speed, 4.49. Lance Erline notes that McGowan lacks explosive carries and he fumbles too much. There was a path in his collegiate career where he ran into some trouble. So it's been non-linear for McGowan. I still see day 3. And it's funny, with all this testing, there seems to be this affluence of receivers and running backs with all the speed. You're like, oh man, in another class, this player would have been even higher. But it just goes to show that you can still matriculate up on the board. And for somebody like Seth McGawan, who has been day 3, and it's not really been anything distinct for him, this is a huge day for him. This is an opportunity to put him on a path. He's not the best running back out there, but there are some good things to his game. And this testing shows, all right, he's somebody that we have to have our eye on. The running back position, we know, Casey, is a spot where you can get opportunity out there. And it's just be on the depth chart. And shy of that and quarterback, you have any running back on a 53 strategy in Dynasty, same thing for any quarterback on a 53 with Superflex. It becomes a little more difficult when there's multiple spots and receiver archetype roles, and then the development of tight ends, that takes some time. You get Seth McGawan parked on a roster as a backup running back, all of a sudden you're just playing handcuff city, and it's week 4 or 5 of the NFL season. So big boost to his stock here. I'm not going to make him rocket ship up but it's firmly something good that we do acknowledge.
Yeah, now the name has a little bit more oomph to it for the public, and that's really a big part of what this is. This is we can have our opinion, but what how the public reacts to this is really the most important thing, because that's the game that we're playing. We're playing it with the public, right? So that's kind of really what matters. It doesn't really matter what we necessarily think. It will matter what some of the bigger pundits think, because they move needles, but publicly, Seth McGawan is now on people's radars. And so at worst, it just helped your 3rd round picks get, whether you like Seth or not, one way or another, it made the 3rd round or end of 2nd round get a little bit better for if that's where he ends up, right? 25 years old would be another knock for Seth, right? A little older, so he's on that Tyrone Tracy trajectory. Give me some Adam Randall, and we'll move on to the receivers.
He helped himself a ton, and he needed to test like this so that, teams are more willing to take on, just a bet on his traits. 6'3", 232, still really young, 21 years old. His first year playing running back, he did have a knack for the goal line. So like, he's good in short yardage. He uses his frame, but he's still really raw. So the testing kind of allows him for more of a runway in terms of, hey, somebody can get him on a roster and then develop those traits. He reminds you a lot of Falcons Cordero Patterson, just in terms of a big, hulking human being. Somebody said that the other day, and I was like, bro, he's nothing like Cordell Patterson was coming out of college. But Atlanta Falcons Cordell Patterson, that's a running back and 230 pounds, yes, all day long, twice on Sunday, size, speed, freak. And that's what you're looking at with Adam Randall. So you're hoping to get one of those outcomes eventually, but it really just, it makes him a fun taxi stash now, where he was off of people's radars for so long.
Yeah, probably not on a lot of people's radars, Chev, like you said, but this now becomes again a lottery ticket, and he's got receiving upside, kind of like a Brashard Smith, but not different, because he's the complete opposite as far as he's a giant. Comparison, which is going to get people's taste buds way more salivated than a Brashard Smith was necessarily. Now I think Brashard is a better player coming in as far as an all-around talent, but what is going to be salivating to the NFL is size, speeds, freaks, and still only 21 years old for Randall, so some room for improvement and to sit and learn like his father. I would say another one before we move on to the wide receivers. Wake Forest running back Claiborne came in here and ran a really fast 40, but I think the BMI police are going to say, hey, you have to be this heavy to ride this ride. I would say he's probably down some weight to come in here and expose his best trait of running fast, right? And the tape is pretty fun. I think, he's somebody who should certainly be on radars and shouldn't be. I don't care at all about BMI. Like, you could take that shit, roll it up, and kick it right the F out the window, because I think it's ridiculous. You can either play or you can't. And I think Claiborne can play. Now, on the lighter end of things, I think we finally slayed the dragon of, do we give a crap if you're 198 or 201? It used to be like, oh my God. If you're still caring about that, man, that's so 1970. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? I think we've slayed that dragon. Some of the most elite runners in the league are sub 200, right? This is a little light, but I'll let you guys have a quick minute on Claiborne here.
I love Claiborne. Yeah. The very first time that I watched him, it was like watching Brashard Smith all over again. It's the lateral agility, the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's not great between the tackles, but he's 188 pounds. Like, he's trying to get to space to outrun people as fast as humanly possible. So those are all things that can be coached up. And then when he gets into space, he's really difficult to deal with. So yeah, I was very encouraged by this number. If you go back, Brashard Smith ran a 4.39. He comes in 4.38, slightly a little bit lighter than Brashard, but that is going to be, I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear a lot from me about Damon Claiborne, because I think that that's a late round dart throw in a team that heavily targets the running back position could benefit from a guy like him in space. Like, we got steamed up about Jaden Blue. If this guy goes somewhere and gets, just has an opportunity like that, he doesn't suck like Jaden Blue did when he got the opportunity, then this could, again, taxi squad stash, 4.38, 190 pounds. He's probably going to be like 192, 195 at his pro day. So this is something to pay attention to, but not something that you're going to have to break the bank over.
Hey, to ride this ride, you need the speed, and Damon Claiborne absolutely showed it. That half a second less than a Devon Achane on the 40 is incredible. Pre-NFL Combine, the show that we did, we were hyping Claiborne a la a Devon Achane, and we were just wanting for 4.4s. And we end up getting in the 4.3s. You love to see it. And this is just a perfect arch type of running back. As Chef said, you can taxi stash him. You can get him round 3, depending on how hyped you are about him. And you just get a reroll opportunity. It's an arbitrage down, we mentioned, from a stylistic player in Emmitt Johnson. Funny enough, teased a little bit later, hey, Emmitt Johnson maybe didn't test as much as we wanted on the speed, but we've been talking. Claiborne is a tier down player in that arch type role of an Emmitt Johnson. So love Claiborne, love what he put on there. And if he was sitting here running a 4.6 at that size, that would be a huge problem. So I'm very relieved and happy and confirmed that we see what we saw Saturday with Claiborne with his speed at his size.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's move on to wide receivers. But before we do, I wanted to talk about a tweet that I saw from Ryan Heath, who, again, super smart guy. This is no disrespect to him at all. But he's basically in the tweet, he basically was saying wide receiver testing doesn't matter and nothing really changed for the running backs, and the tight ends were solid, right? I disagree with a lot of that. I mean, tight ends were good. I think running backs got a little bit of a boost. Maybe you lost 1 or 2, but I think you gained 3 or 4. And then as far as the wide receiver testing, while I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure the math checks out of because that's kind of what he does, I have 2 responses to that. One, let's not pretend that fast 40s don't improve NFL draft stock of NFL wide receivers, because we've seen it plenty over the time of that we've had this. And then, let's not pretend the nerds aren't the draft capital queens of this equation here, right? So if the 40 is increasing draft capital and the draft capital is increasing because of the 40, then it did change something, right? That I'm not saying it's right. I think it's dumb, but and that wide receiver to really gain huge amounts of value, like a Worthy or a Ross, already had to have some buzz But they can certainly elevate the stock, right? And we've seen it. And we've seen NFL teams make that mistake time after time after time of elevating it too high. Now, on the other end, it can elevate guys that were just kind of, we don't really know a whole lot about them. And now they made them a little bit interesting, right? And so I think that's kind of, while yes, I agree that your math doesn't change, but it does a little bit here. And for fantasy, the second thing is you're dealing with public perception. Good combines absolutely raise people's perception, and whether you're trying to, and when we're tying that number 1 point to number 2, raising capital on a player because of a 40, right or wrong, the public's value is going up, and we're playing the game with the public. So while I agree the actual analytics number on the analytics number process here, that's not the reality, right? The reality is a couple of bigger guys were saying this wide receiver class was deep coming in. People were saying this class was trash. And now all of a sudden, oh man, in the top 50, 60, 70, there's going to be a lot of wide receivers taken, whether you like it or not. And whether it's testing or not, like the needle moved, it did. And it improved things. So, again, I just wanted to, I think with some bigger accounts that push things around, I think sometimes you got to push back a little bit on some of those things of, I agree to the math of the equation, but I don't agree with the sentiment. So, all right, let's get to the receivers. And I think we could take a general overview and say Casey Concepcion just nailed it, right, boys? We're all in agreement there. I would say a big riser then, Skyler Bell, right? That he has insane production. He's a little older, but now you come out here and you put all that with that production that you have, and he can be a little older. You don't get faster when you get older typically, so I don't care how old you are. Like, you came out there, you blew the combine up. It was great. I think that really helps Skyler Bell's value. And I think that puts him inside of a, much higher tier of where NFL teams are going to view him. Right. So on top of that, for me personally, I really liked what I saw from Burks. Obviously, we know he was a fast guy, but he came out and was at the top end of almost everything he did. He's a smaller slot guy, which, near and dear to my heart. And then I thought Jacoby Lane, for what he is, really just did himself a solid. We just went out there and performed really well in all the, speed, agility kind of stuff, and cemented like, hey, maybe we need to work on some things, but we do know one thing. He's 6'4", and he can run downfield and go vertical and go do something right away. We don't need to teach him anything else. Right away, we can get some usage out of him for just doing that, right? All right, so from you guys want to take anything of those broader scope things, the track guy speed, the Brendan Thompson, we expected it. He came out here, did his thing, smaller, shiftier guy. So anywhere you want to go on the overview perspective, Jeremiah, take it there, and then I'll kind of get your guys' zoom in on opinion of a guy or two that you thought did really well for himself.
Well, how about Deoin Burks with a 4.3 and Jeff Caldwell with a 4.31, and they're third and fourth respectively. You have two guys who went in the 4.2s at the receiver position. Talk about need for speed. Brendan Thompson showed out 4.26. Xavier Thomas from LSU, a 4.28. Normally, you would have it's almost like inflation of speed. So now you're going to see players who, they're in the 4.5s. People aren't blown away by it because there's an abundance of it. Don't be fooled. These are just excellent times. You go down all the way to Chris Brazzell getting a 4.37. That's a phenomenal time. Skyler Bell, as we said, a 4.440. He's deep on this list. He's in the early teens as far as receivers, as I'm reading the order here. Zachariah Branch, a 4.35. We wanted to see that. We're excited about that for him. We predicted that for Zachariah Branch. Now, are we in on him per se? This is a market thing. We saw market sentiment going in. Zachariah Branch is going to compete and do well at the combine. We're going to get good numbers, and that's going to shift things. And that's right on track, and you love to see it. But I did not see all this speed coming for the wide receiver position, and I absolutely think that NFL teams are going to take that into account. And that's something that we have to be malleable and adjust to. And even if it's, as you two have been talking about so wisely, we're playing a market against other people. So it's just sentiments and what we want to do with that.
Chev, any notes to add to that overview? And then we'll kind of zoom in on a couple of your favorites that helped out here, helped themselves out rather.
Yeah, Skyler Bell beat the Nick Nash allegations. That's the
love that.
That's the biggest takeaway. And that was what I was kind of that was what I was a little worried about with Skyler Bell, because I mean, you turn the film on, it's like, oh, we've got a guy here that.
Well, who's he doing it against?
Yeah, he's old. He didn't have a good breakout age, and now he's dominating as a 23-year-old, and he'll be 24 when the draft comes. And it's good to see him come out. Like Nick Nash, I think ran 4.57 and had like very average burst measurables in terms of broad jump and broad jump and vertical. And so people just completely wrote him off. I think he went as a 7th rounder or a UDFA to the Falcons. I think Skyler Bell firmly cemented himself as either, a late day 2 or early day 3 pick, and he could land somewhere. I mean, you talk about a guy that blocks his butt off, is used all over the formation, condensed sets, out wide, taking handoffs out of the backfield, taking swing passes. Like they literally built the offense around his talents, and it showed up. And I know for a fact that there were a lot of coaches in college, like when he hit the transfer portal, that were super excited about him. I know, like my buddy was at Duke and he wanted him really, really bad, but he couldn't get into Duke. So there's value to what he brings. And I think there's value to what he's going to bring to an NFL team. And the testing just gives us a broader range of draft outcomes so that he can land in a better spot and not be kind of an afterthought to teams that are just like, oh, this is a gadget guy in college. He might have a tremendous football IQ, but we can get that guy in round 6 or round 7.
Right. He
differentiated for Skyler Bell, he's like the Mike Washington of wide receivers. Mm-hmm. He's matriculated up, came from the Bronx, talk about a high school football desert, ends up with a 971 RAS score. That's 111th out of 3,800 receivers since 1987. We can do something with that.
Yeah, we absolutely can. So Chev, give me a zoom in on a couple of guys that we didn't mention there that really stood out to you that think helped their cause, or at least you got to go double down on that tape again.
Oh yeah. One guy that stood out to me was Deshaun Stribling, Ole Miss wide receiver, 6'2", 207, 10-inch hands, 4.3, 640, 153, 10 split, 10-7 broad jump. And he had over, it's a guy that I'm excited to get into the film on, because these are some decent numbers in terms of his yards per route run versus zone, or man and zone, like right at 2 versus zone, 2.5 yards per route run versus man. So I'm excited to get into the film on him with those testing numbers. And you've seen some NFL draftniks, or whatever they call themselves now. I saw one guy comp his numbers per se in like to Puka Nacua. Now Puka didn't run a 40 or whatever, but I guess this is a guy that played with toughness. He played against Georgia and played really well twice. Had over 3 yards per route run. So that's a guy I'm going to go back and watch those Georgia games and just try to find out more about what this is, because that's a guy I feel like is going to rise. And then the other guy was Bryce Lance. We talked about Brendan Thompson on the Combine RISERS show way before, so we knew he was going to run fast. He runs fast. Good, great, grand, wonderful. But Bryce Lance kind of blew everything out of the water. 6'3", 204. The incredible RAS score, 41-inch vertical. Did all the agility testing as well. Blew that out of the water. So I'm really excited to see that. Last 2 years, 2.8 yards per route run, 3.5 yards per route run, 6.7 yards after the catch per reception. So he's doing it. And he's creating after the catch as well. 15 ADOT, 13 ADOT. So yeah, those are both guys that I'm really excited to go back and look at now, because we have such aggressive testing numbers that teams are going to say, hey, it's time to bet on traits. You go back to the 4th round of the draft last year, there was just a run on RAS score wide receivers, being Dante Thornton, Tremere DK. Like, you just saw teams like, oh, this is time. It's time to take our traits guys. And they just started, just flying off the board in the 4th round. So these are 2 guys that I'll have my eyes on because of that simple fact that we know that teams will just say, hey, it's time to get the traits guy. And they get higher draft capital than we expected previously.
Yeah. It goes back to my soliloquy in the beginning there, right, Chev? All right. Jeremiah, give me a guy or two who stood out for you. You already mentioned Caldwell. Is he one on the list for you?
Yep, you're pushing traits, pushing to that early 4th round where, hey, there's some things that can happen. What can be a tiebreaker? It can be that for Jeff Caldwell, 6'5", 216 pounds. You love that for the size. We can do something with this. 4'3", 140, second in the vert at 42 inches, and second in the broad jump at 11.2. So we have some burstability there. Let's say you miss out on a Denzel Boston and you're an NFL team. Well, a couple rounds later, why not go and get a guy like Jeff Caldwell? The accounting stats may not be what you want, but again, we're going trade space, and that's something that is on the trajectory. That's something that you can look out for. So he's going to be somebody that I'm going to be watching, Jeff Caldwell from Cincinnati. Less of a mainstream name, right? So we always get that at the NFL Combine, and that's something a lot more fun. We have something on wax, definitive, that we can look at and reference to. And of course, we're digesting it. All these NFL teams, scouts, GMs, and coaches are digesting that information. Of course, the mock draft industry will be pushing up somebody like a Jeff Caldwell. So we'll see. Can he get into late day 3? Not so sure. But again, if you're flooding the top of day 3, you got to think about it. NFL teams have had all this time between day 2 and day 3. And if you're at the front of day 3, that means you're on the forefront still. There's a distinction, I think, between being early day 3 and late day 3 that I think is out there. And it's accumulated to those traits. And then somebody who is a little more mainstream, but he's always been thrown in. There's never been really like this, hey, this guy is just a dominant wide receiver, but it's Germie Bernard, 6'1", 206 pounds from the Alabama program. We got a 4.4, 840, and we love this. It just makes this wide receiver class so much more rich. You're getting the body type comps to somebody like a JSN. They have the same broad jump. They have a similar 40-yard dash, similar build. Well, that's where it stops. I think that's irresponsible because the maneuverability, the change in direction, the fast twitch game that JSN has, it's not nearly the same. So I like what Germie Bernard did. He also had a top 3 cone drill. Wide receiver for them is 6'7", So there's some agility on display, and not every receiver ran that. So I think Germie Bernard wanted to show some of that agility on display, and I'm excited about it because he's really just been a just kind of safe, okay, somewhere in round 2 rookie drafts. Germie Bernard, you click, but there's not much enthusiasm and excitement. Well, now there's some excitement about him. You talk about mid round 2 draft capital, maybe pushing into early round 2 draft capital after the NFL Combine. So big day for Germie Bernard.
I love it. And I'll throw a couple more shout outs out there before we move on to the tight ends here. Ted Hurst certainly didn't hurt his case at all. I thought he came out there and had a good one. Chris Brazzell, however you want to, just don't say Brazzers, whatever you got, just go with, he had a solid day out there. He has to beat the Tennessee bias a little. But put down what you wanted to see out there, confirmed some things, right? And then I think the other two for me would be Antonio Williams and Zachariah Branch. I know, we know Zachariah Branch was fast, but he at least confirmed it all out there. It wasn't like he's this gadget guy and now that's confirmed. And then I thought Antonio Williams had a really nice day out there. Who's shout out to Jason, who's does all the video editing. He's the Clemson guy. So you got 2 Tigers in one show here. I can tell you who's not on here is Cade Klubnik's sorry ass. But Antonio Williams, shout out to him because that was some good stuff from him. So let's jump into a couple of swipes real quick on the ffdynasty.com here. We got Zachariah Branch or Jeff Caldwell. What do we like, boys?
I'm going to give market to Branch. Market to Branch.
Who do you market to Branch? But if you were ranking them.
Well, see, for me, I'm going to put Caldwell ahead of him, but it's going to be Branch. Branch is the correct answer.
What do you think, Chef? You're not even looking at the screen. He said, I don't even want to look at this.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I didn't watch. I was trying to watch some Jeff Caldwell before the show, and he just wasn't even a part of Cincinnati's game plan for the first 2 games of the season. So I got to go Zachariah Branch. And Zachariah Branch is almost one of those not even if there's a fire players because there's just so many red flags. But I have to go because I didn't know who Jeff Caldwell was before yesterday at the Combine.
All right. I thought that was a good one to throw up there. A couple more real quick. Drew Allar or Eric Rivers, Georgia Tech wide receiver.
Drew Allar.
Drew Allar, which
he threw well. He
quarterbacks.
Threw well at the
Yeah, I thought
another guy that we hit on the Combine Riser show. Yep.
Le'Veon Moss or Daquan Wright. This is just PPR, no tight end premium.
Le'Veon
Moss. Opportunity.
Okay, this leads us right into tight ends. We got John Michael Gyllenborg or Kevin Coleman. This is no premium.
John Michael Gyllenborg.
JMG, baby.
All right. There we go. Ted Hurst or Adam Randall?
Ted Hurst.
Ted Hurst.
All right. Just because it was topical. All right. Let's jump over to the wide or the tight ends rather, which, I think you could say had a really solid showing here as far as testing. And we know as far as the RAS score stuff that you guys have touched on for tight ends, this has become, quite a bit of a holy grail of like, you at least need to hit this minimum threshold, because if you don't, it's really dire. Right. So I think the top two guys that we were really concerned about was Sadiq and Stowers, and they both came out there and just did the damn thing. Right. I think we can confirm anything you want about those guys. I'm not here for this blocking conversation. Like, it's 2026 in the NFL. Like, there are plenty of guys who, number one, I'm sure both these guys could figure out how to block if that's what they needed to do. Number two, like, if you're putting these guys out on the field and you're drafting them, like, it is up to you to use these guys in what they do and how they operate. Like, these are some of the best. We found that this is one of the best mismatches in 2026 is an elite tight end position. And that's what those at a receiver premium, right? That's what those guys can give you. So knock it off. All right, Chev, what do you got?
Okay. First of all, the people that say Kenton Sadiq can't block clearly have not watched a single red cent second of Kenton Sadiq playing tight end for the University of Oregon. Now, if you want to put that smut on Eli Stowers' name, I understand it, but he's trying. He's trying.
He's also was a quarterback 2 years ago.
Like he was a quarterback, track guy, high school state high jump champion. He's still figuring this tight end thing out, and he figured it out to the tune of winning the Mackey Award, which is the award for best tight end in the country. So we have to understand that these teams that are going to take Eli Stowers, they're going to take Kenton Sadiq, they're not going to stick them in line on the line of scrimmage and be like, go block Max Crosby. That would be stupid.
Yeah.
These teams are not stupid.
Not to say that wouldn't happen. And if it does happen, that's a problem. That's their problem. That's not a Stowers or a Sadiq issue. That's you're an idiot.
Correct.
You scheme these guys.
But here's the thing. Kenton Sadiq is strong enough, big enough, fast enough to block whoever he wants. And there's plenty of evidence on the tape about that. So let's just stop with the Kenton Sadiq can't block or he's undersized or whatever. He chose to move down from 255 to 241 so that he could do all the crazy stuff that he did at the combine. And again, that shows up all over when you watch Kenton Sadiq play football. So I'll end my rant as far as their skill sets because people are typecasting them because they're not 6'4", 260 pounds. This is the new NFL. Brock Bowers also 6'3", 242 at the combine. So let's not make these things up and pretend like we're in, they've got to be Frank Wycheck to be fantasy relevant. Shout out to Tennessee Titans. But I'm just saying, like, let's pretend like we understand how the NFL and how offensive coordinators are designing offenses just for a second, just to see how it feels. Mm-hmm. And then, stick some Kenton Sadiq in your rookie drafts in your lineup and see how that feels.
And you have to remember there's 12 and 13 personnel, as you were alluding to. NFL teams are going to draft and develop and implement players to their fit, role, scheme, fit. Eli Stowers, though, where he is going to fit, late round one now. I think you can see him enter that territory of 111, 112, especially as we get into the premiums. There's just going to be a little bit of a closing in on Kenton Sadiq, which I don't think is any knock on Sadiq. I think it's more of a correction towards what Eli Stowers has been. And you're going to get the top broad jump for Eli Stowers. So there's burstability there. We love what he does close to the line of scrimmage. We love just how he can catch, turn, and go upfield. I see Jordan Reed comps to Eli Stowers. And to your point, Casey, hey, maybe that blocking can happen another year. We talk about optimism on players for their health, right? Hey, another year out from a significant injury. Well, how about another year out from the inception of when you start a brand new position? That adaptability that Stowers has is very impressive. Tells me that he's receptive and can learn, and we shouldn't be shying away. And especially, though, for fantasy football production, we know Stowers can ball. Now, what's going to keep a player on the field? More to what Kenton Sadiq can do. But then again, teams are going to place players via draft and their scouting process. We want to be optimistic and bullish. There's some dumb teams out there. They make bad choices. But we want to be bullish on at least going in how players get drafted.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. Let's zoom. We obviously those were like our two big mainstays on another 40,000 point view here. What other tight end did you guys think helped, or tight ends helped their day out at the combine here, Jeremiah?
Hey, look, don't look behind me. All right, but it is Justin Joly. He really did well at the gauntlet drill. It was immaculate, very smooth, was able to catch a ball. Ball tracking was on display. And I love Justin Joly. He's more raw development to me, but there's some players, some teams. If you could put with the Falcons, if they lose Kyle Pitts, Justin Joly would be a perfect fit there. The Bengals would be instant success. It wouldn't be perfect because you'd have Higgins and Chase taking up target share. Then the New England Patriots with Hunter Henry, I'd like to see Joly develop there. But we saw some good traits, and there's buzz around him. And the beauty is you don't have to pay such a high price on somebody like Justin Joly. Another player who, he comes from UConn, goes to NC State, changes his direction, and still gets better. So I see that happening at the NFL level for Justin Joly.
Chev, any you want to give some shout outs to another tight end? Who you got?
Yeah, John Michael Gyllenborg. Yeah,
who?
Big fan. So
I think you say no.
Yeah. Listen, I was made aware of him going into the combine, and I was like, I don't think so. But then he comes out, 4.6 40, 1.6, 160 flat in the 10-yard split, 36-inch vertical at 6'6", 250 pounds, 4.22 in the 20 in the short shuttle, which shows that he's got just lateral agility that you want to see out of a guy that you want to catch passes, because this is the type of guy, much like a Tyler Eifert, where you just, hey, I'm bigger than you, and I'm just going to throw the ball up high and put it on the top shelf where the kids can't get it, to borrow Madden colloquialism from Charles Davis. So 10-8 broad jump. So really excited to see what's going to play out with this deal. So 10-inch hands as well, which is like that's a big thing for me in terms of guys being able to, I know it's not, giant neck size like some people are obsessed with, but catching the football helps if you have giant hands. So yeah, I was really excited about him. And then just to throw in Tanner Koziol, also really fun to watch the beginning of his highlight tape, because he hits his head on the ground harder than any human being I have ever seen. It just bounces up like this is future CTE in the making. He just hits the ground so hard. He's 6'7", 250 some odd pounds. So got to keep an eye on. And then another throw in, Sam Roush, Stanford tight end. Probably not going to matter for fantasy unless it's like an Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry type of thing. But just a name to keep an eye on because he was really athletic as well.
Yeah. All right. Real quick around the room before we get over to the loser side of things. Give me your quarterback who helped himself out a little bit, in your opinion, Jeremiah.
It's Taylen Green. We saw the Anthony Richardson testing. He's blown that out. And the funny thing is, though, you're going to have a differentiation from being top of round 1 all the way to probably still a day 4 pick. You're going to have opportunities for somebody like Taylen Green to be a backup, and Konami code upside is out there. And any quarterback on a 53, this is the perfect type of player that you want to stash on your rosters as a high upside backup. And, can I get the Rams, Niners, Packers, go to QB school behind the Bills with Josh Allen would be a great fit, and he can refine some of his passing. And then I want to shout out Drew Allar. He had a lot of zip on the ball. Lower and upper body were in sync. So you see that disconnect on quarterbacks who struggle their body. Drove through his hip, threw on the deep balls was Allar. And Daniel Jeremiah, he talked about there was like a little cheat step that Allar had to sway to which side he was throwing. But on the deep ball, he seemed to fix his footwork. So we'll see about that. And it's just an opportunity. Allar becomes somebody else. Any quarterback on a 53 strategy that you want to apply, getting him deeper. If you're kind of out of skill position players where you're like, I don't know where to go, Allar is going to present that. He and Green.
Yeah, we know Drew Allar's got all the stuff there. It just either didn't get developed or maybe it's Hackenberg all over again. But he did look good ripping it out there yesterday, I thought. Some anticipation and some good velocity on some balls there. So, Chev, if you had to take away a quarterback that you think gave himself a little bit of juice, not named one of those guys that Jeremiah just said, who would you give a little bit of love to?
Oh, I mean, probably Cole Payton. I mean,
a lot of people like him.
Yeah, he tested really well. It's weird. So he's Bryce Lance's quarterback in North Dakota State. He's left-handed and he didn't play a whole bunch, but he's really athletic. So he's not my cup of tea, but that's a guy that people are going to be really interested in because of the testing numbers. And just, he had some buzz going into it from the Senior Bowl. Plus, now the athletic testing kind of verifies what you see on film with him. So yeah.
Yeah. I'd say Nussmeier not being injured and seeing him throw it around out there was good. And then Simpson, I thought he did a nice job of not hurting anything, right? He just did his thing. So, all right, let's jump over to the losers side of things, right? And I think there's far more winners than losers this year, but we did have some bigger impact losers. And I think as a whole on this conversation is more just about like how to deal with and what to take away from this, right? I led off with in the intro of just like, you're just trying to not ruin your day. And I wouldn't say any of these guys ruined their day. Just from an outside looking in, it wasn't what people expected. So it's bad, right? And so now we have a loser. And I think the first loser is, at this point, it's got to be, Carnell Tate is no longer a first round draft pick, right, Chev?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Okay. How could you draft this guy?
This is how we're going to start this off. All right, cool. So
Brandon Bean said it wasn't me.
Carnell Tate ran a bad 40, and now he can't be a first-round draft pick. Yes, I love this more
obviously
than anything. He's obviously going to be outside of my top 10 wide receiver rankings for the rookie class now. And, let's disregard everything that we've seen from him over the course of the last 3 years about his ability to play football. He can't be a first-round pick now.
Hey, Chev, here's a rookie swipe. Carnell Tate or Zachariah Branch?
I would swipe my own throat with a knife if I had to pick Zachariah Branch.
Now, I will say, did Jordan Tyson help himself the most by not doing anything there out of the other two big time receivers? At least maybe in a public point of view?
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. You can't talk about how injured he's been if he's not on the field doing anything, because that immediately is the conversation. And we've talked about that, Casey. Like he's we've all said the same thing. I think the athletic ceiling is the highest for him out of all of these wide receivers in terms of what he can do with the ball in his hands, what he can do at the catch point, what he can do in terms of suddenness as a route runner. The ceiling is the highest for him, but we're not going to get numbers to verify that. So I think it's a smart move to just say, hey, watch my tape if you want to see what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if he does it at his pro day as well.
It seemed like his combine really replicated what he is, which is just a career wide receiver too. So just don't draft him in the top couple of picks, right?
Who is this?
Carnell Tate.
Oh, we're back to Carnell Tate. This deal again? Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. I will.
If he fell kind of around San Francisco, though, maybe you take a shot. Just like a project,
he'd be
right?
A great to Ricky Pearsall for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Boy.
Hey, when you can do something good. I think you got to put Jacoby Lane over. They kind of do the same thing.
I'm gonna leave the StreamYard.
Maybe Carnell Tate just wanted to dodge the Jets. He wants to dodge the Jets at 2. So
that's right.
We'll smoke a little bit, play possum.
Pulled up. Yeah. Is Makai Lemon David Montgomery of wide receivers? Excellent at everything, but that extra gear.
That's a good. That's a really good comparison. I think I would have liked to have seen him, he didn't do any of the testing. He just did the drills, right?
Oh, and he dropped a pass at the gauntlet drill, in which Casey Concepcion did not.
Well, that's it right there.
Casey Concepcion.
Number one after the combine. It's Casey Concepcion number one. The rest,
Casey
maybe Tyson too.
Cured his case of Megan Fox thumbs in his gloves, and now all of a sudden he's got the best. He looks so smooth.
He did.
You could tell he was concentrating. You could tell that drill meant a lot to him because he knows what's out there, the allegations.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I do think he kept the gas a little back on that gauntlet to just help himself be as smooth as possible.
Yep. Yes.
Secure the ball.
I mean, he's got enough long speed that you see to like if he wanted to open it up, he could open it up. We've glazed Casey Concepcion enough.
Fast. Yeah. We've glazed them enough.
Yeah, we've glazed. We all
we
love.
Could go back to Carnell Tate,
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I'm straight up not having a good time right now.
This is miserable. Malachi Fields was probably the guy who really injured himself the most, as far as from a perspective of like a lot of people really liked him. Again, though, like if you should have liked him, like what he runs, it doesn't matter because that's not how he was winning on tape, right? Am I wrong here?
Well, there was some hype and hope that Malachi Fields would be in that 4.5 range. So when we get that 4.61, and he was last as well in that 10-yard split, he's at the bottom with a 1.63. So then people are really going to pick that apart. I've seen some other big name analysts talk about how he doesn't get the requisite usage that they really want to see. Granted, we know the delineation of pass to run in the Notre Dame offense, but overall, it is a bad day for him. The good news, though, we can get a discount on somebody like Fields. So, yeah, it's not what you want, but we have opportunity to still get that archetype. And what we need to pay attention to for some of these losers is what teams end up drafting them. And then ear hustle on minicamp reports. See how that's going as well. But this will put some tests to Daniel Jeremiah saying Malachi Fields is a round one pick. I've seen other mocks now follow where Fields is in there. We'll see if that tests into, now we think he's a round 2 pick or a round 3 pick. Right. We shall see.
Yeah, I think at the very least, it's kind of going to knock a lot of people's confidence down to a bottom end round 2, top end round 3. And you know, there's a couple wide receivers every year that people get it completely wrong on one way or another, right? So any other wide receivers here that you guys really thought did a disservice to themselves out here as the testing went? Because I think overall it was a pretty positive day for them.
Before we move on to the other guys that suck, some really positive signal in terms of his lateral agility, because people just said he's just a contested catch guy. Yeah. Sub 7 3 cone, 4.35. You know, for instance, Bryce Lance ran a 4.15, but he's 200. You know, Malachi Fields comes in at 218 pounds. So big guy that can move really well. Really wanted a Jaden Higgins style outcome for him, you know, just coming out and blowing the 40 out of the water. But this is going to be a discount. The traits were never, the 40 was never, he's a build-up speed guy. So the 40 was never going to be a make or break thing for me. It just kind of solidifies like, hey, we're going to be able to get a discount on Malachi Fields. I was completely shocked when I saw Daniel Jeremiah having him, you know, as a round 1 pick, because that just kind of lets the cat out of the bag. Now all of a sudden people are going to over adjust their expectations, which is great for me. So we can move on.
Perfect.
All right. I think, you know, obviously you come away here with, you know, Emmitt Johnson and Price being the two losers from the running back side of things, right? And, you know, Emmitt Johnson probably being the worst case scenario for kind of what you wanted to see from him as far as a testing perspective. Price, I don't think was like drills wise was good. You know, the 40 wasn't fast, but like if you're watching, and he didn't come in heavy as I think some people expected, but like if you like, to me, what these guys both were two of the best movers as far as like, the speed and all, like the top end speed, whatever, but like they move around the best. I don't care. Like if you're saying that you didn't, that's light for Price because you think he's a bulldozer, like that's not what he is.
You didn't watch him.
Right. I don't understand that. But these guys, he's a kick returner, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
what are we doing? And
then, you know, you could come in here and knock, like, say, a Price. I mean, Emmitt Johnson's receiving profile is through the roof, right? Price's isn't, right? But when you look at, we've defeated this narrative 1 million. I think we're about 99 out of 100 for saying knock it off with this nonsense. And Kenny Walker would be just the great example of like, oh, well, he only caught 7 balls. Like Jadarian Price only caught 6 balls this year. Look, 3 of them were in one game at Stanford at the end of the season. They threw all the balls to Love, who's, by the way, like one of the best generational prospects ever. And second of all, it's not like there's some other running back on the team that they're choosing to sub them all out for and throw the ball to. They just didn't throw it to the running back a ton. It's really that simple. Like, and Price just didn't get the leftovers. To come out here and think that Price didn't have any drops, like to come out here and think somebody like Price can't catch footballs at the level of athleticism that he is, if he wants to catch footballs, is fucking crazy. If we could stop with this threshold of pass catching prowess nonsense. Now, if you want to use it as positives for somebody like Emmitt Johnson, or hell, last year, we had one of the best pass catching running backs ever, and nobody liked him because he was old in Woody Marks. And then they take him and they don't even throw it to him. Like, so like, what are we talking about here? So sorry for that rant there, but I don't think Price should drop all that much. Emmitt Johnson for us, I think, was higher than a lot of people. I think what this does now is we say this a lot. You have to come in and now you have to adjust to where the market is going to adjust on them and just be a little ahead of market on both of those guys because you like them.
Oh, you shipped it back and then, hey, I'm going to go 1 pick ahead of market. And then you, me, anybody who's bullish on Price and Emmitt Johnson get a discount, and we just shift back the pendulum just a little bit. Right. So,
Chev, any follow? I know Emmitt's your guy. I think all of us like Emmitt. What would you say to the haters?
This is fantastic. Okay. Again, we're going to use his ability to play football as the tool to evaluate him. I said on Twitter X, I selfishly want him to run a bad 40 so people will hop off the Emmitt Johnson train. And that's exactly what's about to happen. And I'm going to get as much Emmitt Johnson as humanly possible, because now, instead of having to take him at the back, the 110 to 112, I'll probably be able to take him 2.5 to 2.7, or maybe even later, depending on how much he gets hated on. So this is great. You get a pass catching profile. Honestly, it could play out just like Bucky Irving played out.
Yeah,
that is exactly that's what I have. That's what I have in my brain. Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams weren't out. Hey, these guys were great pass catchers in college. They didn't test well. Now people just ready to throw him in the trash. And, they're going to look at his RAS score, shout out to the spreadsheet zaddies, and say that he can't play football. And that is exactly what I want. So I am thrilled about this.
Which was interesting because coming into the combine, some of the bigger, deeper spreadsheet guys who were really, kind of leading charges were really giving a lot of Emmitt Johnson love. I know our guy, Joseph, came out and was like, hey, I got a new RB stat, and Emmitt Johnson is crushing it in there as far as, basically like, a lot of people were upset about his contact balance or whatever. And it was basically saying like, hey, he was one of the better running backs when being contacted of gaining yards. Right.
Yes.
And so, hey, kind of take that for what it is. But this doesn't really, all it changes is where I have to take Emmitt Johnson.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's Jadarian Price. Right. And I don't know how much it's going to, I think it was worse for Johnson than Price in a lot of people's eyes. Yes. So I think Price will kind of stay up there. And to the non-pass catching thing, I think we got to knock it off with this. Like, we've just seen this myth busted so many times. Like, if you got feet for hands, it's one thing. But like, again, he had 6 catches on the season. 3 of them came in one game against Stanford, last game of the season in the regular season for them, right? Like week 14 or whatever. So like, if they throw it to him, he can catch it. Like, this is crazy.
And he has the kick return ability. So if you can track a ball like that, like you're in center field, you can track a ball that's just a simple dump off. Right. And with Jadarian Price, he really did well on the field drills.
Right.
It's just this fat-brained image of the 40. Now, Price, he wanted in the 4.4s. He wanted a better time. He was disappointed about that, but we don't have to hold that against him. But the beauty is we get to take advantage of this market and how other people think. So that's one of the most fun things about fantasy football is the psychology element about this imprinted new information. We pray for opportunities like this for EJ and for Price, and we're shifting a price on both of them. If we're bullish before and we're still bullish now we just get the beauty of arbitrage value.
Yeah, I like it. let's wrap up with a couple more swipes from the FFDynasty.com. Rookies only. We got Superflex tight end premium. We got Jamari Taylor or Carson Beck.
Jamari Taylor.
Give me Beck. Just super flex opportunity.
Room split. I'll take the. I'll ride with you on the QB. All right, we got DJ Rogers or Josh. Help me out with the last name.
Cuevas.
Let's go Cuevas.
Cuevas. Jacoby Lane or Skyler Bell.
Jacoby Lane.
I'm gonna go Lane. Stay in the lane.
I'm taking Skyler.
He had a very good combine. I know we joked with Carnell Tate. He had a very good combine.
Yeah.
Sadiq or Omar Cooper, Superflex tight end premium.
I'm going to go Cooper.
I'm going Sadiq as well. Jam Miller, who I know you had a little drum beat going for when we didn't mention him here, had a nice 40. Or Eric McAllister, who has kind of had a little bit of a subtle drum beat as well.
Eric McAllister.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Jonah Coleman, who was not there, or Elijah Surratt, who didn't do anything, or I guess both guys were there.
Both guys were there and both didn't. I mean, Elijah Surratt did the gauntlet drill, but I had Jonah Coleman higher before, so still Jonah Coleman.
Yeah, and they're going to be close in tiers, but Coleman.
Cole Payton or Antonio Williams?
Cole Payton for market.
All right. Chris Bell or Malachi Fields?
Bell. It's funny. It's funny enough. Yes, I like Chris. I'm on Chris Bell. Chris Bell's been getting some hype with all these scouts, GMs, everybody getting together. We're hearing about round one buzz for him. So
there we go.
Cool. That receiver position, pretty deep. We didn't even talk about Chris Bell.
Yeah. All right, real quick. Surratt or Omar Cooper? There's been a lot of discourse on my Twitter about it.
Omar Cooper.
Okay. But Surratt doesn't suck.
Surratt does not, confirm Surratt does not suck at American tackle.
I mean the other. Yeah.
They just do different things, right?
Very, very different. Very, to the biggest thing with those two is Omar Cooper switched roles, playing from primarily outside, where he averaged 19 yards of reception in 2024, to primarily in the slot. Elijah Surratt was already outside and doing well in 2024, but then his role shifted to the back shoulders, the contested catch thing. But if you look at the 2024 film, you get a more complete picture about what he is and what he's capable of. And that's an intentional thing that they worked on in their offense. If you've listened to anything that Fernando Mendoza has said about them, they watched film of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams on the back shoulder fade. So it shows an IQ and a prowess that is underappreciated in terms of what he could do in terms of skill set, because it's like, hey, I can do that. Let's do that because it's free money.
And people are putting that out as a negative.
It's really stupid. It's really stupid. I'm sorry. I don't mean to call other people stupid, but that's a really.
Well, what they're saying is stupid. How about that?
It's a broken brain. Yes. I didn't say that they were stupid. I said it's a really stupid notion. I just want to make that clear.
They stink and we hate them. Let's just.
They stink and I hate them.
They took our jobs.
All right. Let's wrap this one up. Combines, winners, and losers. We'll have a mock to follow to kind of give us a price check on all this. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. If you're not following Jeremiah, where can we follow you at, Jeremiah?
Hey, at Coach Reslap1.
Go ahead and follow him. If you're not following Chev, go follow Chev at what's your Twitter handle?
Just Chev90.
Chev90. There we go. We're the FF Dynasty. We appreciate you. We'll catch you next week. Peace.